33. I want to kind of tell you at the beginning that there is not consensus on this chapter. It's a little bit generic on who the target is here. I will tell you right now, there are a lot of commentators that think that the main target is Sennacherib and the Assyrians. Okay, because that's what's going on in Isaiah's time. I will tell you right now, I don't think I really buy into it, and I'll show you the few verses on why, kind of in the second half of the chapter, why I think, again, it's really pointing to events in the first century. You've got the rock coming, you've got let me go ahead and read those now so you'll see. Go to, first of all, verse 14, it talks about the sinners in Zion. Okay? It talks about, in verse 17, behold, you're going to see the king in his beauty. Some of them are saying the king there is Hezekiah. I don't think so, because down in verse 22, it says, for the Lord is our judge, the Lord is our lawgiver, the Lord is our king. He will save us. God's going to save us. Hezekiah doesn't save him. Hezekiah, so to me, that's not Hezekiah, that's talking about God. I think there's a bunch of forced trying to make it about the events in Isaiah's day. But just so you know that that's out there. Now, not every one of them. Some of them agree with the angle that I take, that it's first century stuff. But I just wanted to throw that disclosure out before we got started. There's another thing that verse 19, and this was the big one. Thou shalt not see a fierce people, a people of deeper speech that thou canst perceive, of the stammering tongue that thou cannot understand. Talking about this force that's coming in to do all this destroying of the sinners of Zion is going to be removed. It's saying your faithful ones, you're not going to be seeing this anymore. It's going to go away. And to me, and that's combining verse 14 and verse 19 there. To me, that doesn't really fit the end of Assyria there. Because first of all, the ones that destroy Assyria speak the exact same language. So that doesn't make any sense. And who out of that Assyrian empire is faithful anyway? So it doesn't. I have a lot of question marks on it being Assyria. And I think that, again, the only reason why they say that this first part here is talking about Sennacherib and everything is just because he's alive during Isaiah's time and he is a destroyer. So he kind of fits. At best, I think it might be another one of these anti-type things. He's kind of using what's going on as his day to really explain what's happening in the first century. We've seen that a whole lot. I want to read chapter 33 through, and then we'll start on the slide. So I want you to kind of hear what's going on here. Woe to thee that spoilest. And it's talking about, in the NASB, it's saying, woe to the destroyer. Okay, that's probably the better translation there.
That's NIV, destroyer.
Yeah, that's probably the better translation, because you can easily tie that in with Revelation 9, all right?
And then he
We'll get
turns
to that
right
later.
around, it says, woe to you, O traitor. So it's destroyer and then traitor.
Traitor, one dealing treacherous, Woe to thee that spoileth, and thou wast not spoiled, and dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled. When thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee. what you were doing, whoever this target is here, whatever you are doing, it's going to be done to you. Whatever bad things you are doing to my people, I'm going to have it being done unto you. Okay, that's what I'm getting out of this. Who the target is kind of a little bit of a debate here. And it's general, so it could be just applying to everybody. It could be a type-anti-type thing, or it could be just focusing on Assyria, or it could be just focusing on apostate Judaism in the first century. Okay? These are all your possibilities here. I lean toward either the type-anti-type or just it's strictly being about the Jews in the first century. With probably that's the way I lean the most. But let's go through it. O Lord, be gracious unto us. We have waited for thee. These are the good guys. We have waited for thee. Be thou their arm every morning, our salvation also in the time of trouble. All right, that can apply to God's people at many different times, right? First century, it works. Babylonian captivity, it works. Assyrian invasion, here it works. When they were back in Egypt, it works. At the noise of the tumult, the people fled. At the lifting up of thyself, God, when you're rising up here, you're standing up for us, the nations were scattered. Your spoil shall be like the gathering of the caterpillar, as the running to and fro of locusts shall he run upon them. The Lord is exalted, for he dwelleth on high. He hath filled Zion with judgment and righteousness. And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and the strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure. Behold, their valiant ones shall cry without, and the ambassadors of peace shall weep bitterly. The highways lie waste, the wayfaring man ceaseth. He that broken the covenant, he hath despised the cities, he regardeth no man. The earth mourneth and languisheth. Lebanon is ashamed. Here's that. It's a Judaism thing here, not a. We already know what the earth is, but then it starts going on and describing all the different parts of Judah. Okay, so this is another thing that makes me think it's not Assyria. The earth mourneth and languish. Lebanon is ashamed and hewed down. Sharon is like a wilderness, and Bashan and Carmel shake off their fruits. Now I will rise, saith the Lord. Now I will be exalted. Now I will lift up myself. Ye shall conceive chaff. Ye shall bring forth stubble. Your breath as fire shall devour you. And the people shall be as the burning of lime. As thorns cut up shall they be burned in the fire. Hear ye that are far off what I have done, and ye that are near acknowledge my might. The sinners in Zion are afraid. Okay, that's one of the big clues right there. Fearfulness has suppressed the hypocrites. Who among us shall dwell with the devouring fire? Who among us shall dwell with the everlasting burnings? He that walketh righteously and speaketh uprightly, he that despiseth the gain of the oppressions, that shaketh his hands from holding of bribes, that stoppeth his ears from hearing of blood, and shutteth his eyes from seeing evil. He shall dwell on high, his place of defense shall be the munitions of rocks. Bread shall be given him, his waters shall be sure. Thine eyes shall see the king in his beauty. They shall behold the land that is a very far off. You should be thinking, Matthew 25, 26, right there. Thine heart shall meditate terror. Where is the scribe? Where is the receiver? Where is he that counteth the towers? Thou shalt not see a fierce people, a people of deeper speech than thou canst perceive, of a stammering tongue that thou canst not understand. Look upon Zion, the city of our solemnities. Thine eyes shall see Jerusalem, a quiet habitation, a tabernacle shall not be taken down, a tabernacle that shall not be taken down. Not one of the stakes thereof shall ever be removed, neither shall any of the cords thereof be broken. What do y'all think that's talking about there? To me, that sounds like the church. Okay? But there, the glorious Lord will be unto us a place of broad rivers and streams, wherein shall go no galley with oars, neither shall a gallant ship pass thereby. For the Lord is our judge, the Lord is our lawgiver, the Lord is our king, he will save us. Thy tacklings are loosed, they could not well strengthen their midst, they could not spread the sail. Then is the prey of the great spoil divided, the lame take the prey. And the inhabitant shall not say, I am sick, but people that dwell therein shall be forgiven their iniquity. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff, especially there in the end, that is just to me screaming New Testament and first century stuff. And that's why I'm thinking all of this, the target of this warning is the opponents of God's people there in the first century. Okay? That's kind of where I'm going with this. But I do want you to know that there's a lot of people out there that just think this is strictly about Sennacherib and Hezekiah. I do not agree with that. It's not what I believe. But I just wanted y'all to know. I think verse 1, you're talking about this, the one who is doing these bad things, it's going to be coming back on them. Whatever they're doing, it's going to be coming back on them. That applies to a lot of God's enemies throughout different times. It's hard to...
Isn't that happening today, even?
I'm sure, yeah.
Well, you just see, you know.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, go ahead and knock my glasses off my face. Something's gonna happen to you.
Yeah,
Every day, somebody does something.
that's what I'm saying. I was like, it kind of works for whenever. You know, it's not just a thing. I do like to try to put timestamps on a specific event, but again, the class is not application class. However, if we were applying it, I would say, yeah, this applies.
Yeah.
Like even to stuff today, I think God's not gonna come down and miraculously slap somebody's glasses off.
No, but I have to take it because, you know, this is.
God will eventually handle that person.
Yeah,
in His time.
This is the word, you know. I take it for real.
Yeah.
Okay, don't do that because it's gonna happen.
So the first thing that I do is keep this in context. What we've been covering the whole time in here, what the last chapter was about, what all the previous chapters have been about. It's a book concerning Judah and Jerusalem. Isaiah 1:1. All right? And I think that you've seen throughout that they are the target. They have continually, the Jews, the disobedient Jews have continually been the target in this book. Yes, there are other characters involved in this story, in this warning, but I think it's them. And you have chapter 32 talking about the Jews, and you had, remember last week, you had the big verse of when my spirit would be poured out upon all flesh, which we know is Acts chapter 2. Isaiah 24, if you go back several chapters, verse 6 and 16, if you want to go read those, talking about the ones that broke the everlasting covenant, they are the ones that are dealing treacherously. And here it's saying, hey, the ones that are dealing treacherously, like it specifically names the Jews as the ones that are dealing treacherously. Okay, so we have something to take this verse 1 back to, and we don't take it back to Assyria, even though Syria and Sennacherib absolutely fit. But here we have 24:16 saying that the Jews are the ones that are dealing treacherously. And they're going to get what they've been sowing. Verse 2. O Lord, be gracious unto us. We have waited for thee. Be our salvation in this time of trouble. Okay, again, can point to many different time periods, but you have New Testament verses that are kind of saying the exact same thing. 1 Thessalonians 1:10, and to wait for his Son from heaven, who he raised up from the dead, even Jesus, which delivered us from the wrath to come. Save us. Save us from all of this stuff that's about to be happening there. Revelation 6:10, and this is the souls under the altar. He's saying, we're waiting. When are you going to come back and avenge us? These would be the dead ones. The live ones would be, hey, please come and save us. But they're waiting for God to come back, and God's like, hold on a little bit. I've got to give time for prophecies to be fulfilled. I've got to give people the chance to repent. I wanted to give time. I need stuff to happen, and then it's going to happen. I'm going to avenge you. I'm going to save you. Talking about Christ here, standing up for his people. Verse 3, verse 4. When you're going to stand up, your enemies are not going to be able to take you on. You're going to stand up. You're going to know. And your spoil, God's spoil here, not the spoiler, not the destroyer. Your spoil shall be gathered like the gathering of the caterpillar, and the running to and fro of locusts shall he run upon them. This is God standing up to his enemies, and he's going to be consuming them with this metaphorical locust army. All right? We spend a little bit of time here on this stuff, because you have locusts in Revelation 9, I believe. It's the fifth seal. You have these locusts come out. You have this locust army coming out in Joel chapter 2. And he's saying, hey, you're going to go into this captivity, this Babylonian captivity. This is what Joel chapter 2 is talking about, the first part of it. He goes, but I'm going to bring you out of that captivity. You're going to come out of it, and I'm going to restore to you the years that the locust hath eaten, the cankerworm and the caterpillar, the palmer worm, my great army. And you can get in there and it starts describing the army with their swords and chariots and stuff like that. Or the locusts with their swords and chariots. The locust is metaphorical for it's going to consume them. It's not literal. He's not going to send a bunch of bugs at us like he did back in Exodus. Your Exodus plagues are repeated, sort of, in Revelation. In Exodus, they're very, very literal. Old Testament, I always say, the best way to understand the way God uses all of this apocalyptic stuff is the Old Testament is very, well, it's not even that, it's just a lot of stuff in the Bible. Old Testament is literal, physical. New Testament is spiritual, metaphorical. And I think that's what's going on here. I think it's this great army. And you have it again here with Nineveh. Hey, I'm going to send this army in, and it's going to consume you like a bunch of locusts. I think it's a well-established thing. You can find it in multiple places in the Bible that when he sends in another army to wipe out a bad kingdom, it's described as a locust army. Joel chapter 2, God is going to bring this great people from afar, this great army. They're going to consume and devour the Jews, figuratively, whatever. They're not going to eat the people, right? They would destroy everything in their path. And Cody, this is the part I was going to talk to you on. When I think of this, I think of it a lot like Sherman's March Through the South, if y'all are familiar with that. That's an army doing that. That's not a bunch of bugs, right? That was the Yankee Army coming through and burning up Georgia, whatever. What was it, Georgia? So, it's this great army. But in Joel 2, he's going to bring them out of this captivity. And then, but in Acts chapter 2's time, when the Holy Spirit would be poured out, for behold, in those days and that time, when I shall bring back the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, they're going to go back into this troublesome times, this persecution, this horrible time period. I don't think it's a literal captivity like the one under Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon, but it's definitely related to it because he's going to bring back the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem when the Spirit is poured out. So you know it's a first century event there. And in Revelation, you've got Babylon, right? So it's very much, whether you agree with me on what Babylon and the harlot is, you cannot disagree that the two are being compared, okay? And I'll ask you the specific question later on it. After I didn't cover it. Now, here's one of the guys that kind of is saying what I was saying. And they're much more wordy than I am. I'm just going to read the highlighted parts here. But it says, "And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure." Gill's exposition. "Wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability." Some take these words to be directed to Hezekiah. He's saying exactly what I'm saying. Some of these people are like saying this is about stuff in Isaiah's time. I don't think so. This guy doesn't think so. I don't know who this guy is, but he's on Bible Hub, so I put it up here. Some take these words to be directed to Hezekiah, but rather they are an apostrophe to the Messiah and respect the latter times of Christ. Times of peace, joy, comfort to the church, strength of salvation, strong and lasting salvation, eternal salvation by Jesus Christ, and complete salvation from the Antichrist. So you get this physical salvation and this spiritual salvation. Christ is going to bring both of them. And that's a deeper topic, but that's what it's talking. That's what I think this chapter is talking about. That's what Gill thinks this chapter is talking about. So this is one of the guys that agrees with me. It's not consensus. Okay. And again, as we go through, I mean, I've kind of already touched on it at the beginning, but as we go through, I'll start hammering away a little more that it's got to be the church there in the first century. It's got to be first century prophecy. It's got to be the messianic prophet giving another messianic prophecy. That's the way I look at it. "The highways lie waste. The wayfaring man ceaseth. He hath broken the covenant. He hath despised the cities. He regardeth no man." And when you look at Isaiah 35, 5 through 10, which we've already done, and we'll do it again, it's kind of contrasting that, like the church, you're not going to have this stuff. It's gonna be all positives there in the church. Who's the real target? Sennacherib? I don't know. I don't think so, but I think it's going to be coming down to the sinners of Zion. I think it's going to be the hypocrites, which you find in Matthew 23. I think it's the ones, the dealers who are dealing treacherously from Isaiah chapter 24, being the ones who broke the everlasting covenant. This is why I'm kind of leaning towards, well, I'm a lot leaning towards first century. I'm not ruling it out that it can be a type anti-type thing. I want to keep throwing that disclaimer out there. The next 2 or 3 times I go through this, 5, 10 years from now, I might be a little more solid on it. But as of right now, this is what you get. Francis, this is the part I was talking about. Okay? 33:9, the land mourns and wastes away. Lebanon is shamed and withered. Sharon is like a desert plain. Bashan and Carmel lose their foliage. These are all areas of Israel here. Judah, Jerusalem. God is going to rise up. When all of these enemies are at their height, God is going to rise up. You see that verse 3, verse 4 of Isaiah 33. But you also see it in verse 10. And you also see it in Malachi 4:2, which is a little easier to understand because that's the Son of Righteousness arising with healing in his wings, which we've pointed to many, many times. He's going to rise up, and these enemies there in verse 10, they're going to be fleeing. Their cause of persecution upon God's people is going to die. It's going to be over. They are now going to be the ones that are the prey. And again, it's this contrast to when that spirit would be poured out. If you look at Isaiah 35:6, and again, we're hitting Isaiah 35 here. I feel like I don't even need to hit Isaiah 35 when we actually get to 35. For in the wilderness What's the wilderness? What's the topic here? Judah and Jerusalem. Right? That's what's being desolated. Isaiah 1:7. You're going to be desolated, you Jews. For in the wilderness, but what comes out? What's my green highlight? Streams. The water of life.
Freedom.
Freedom from sin. All of this stuff is going to be coming. Christ is going to be coming from the wilderness. It was a bad guy place. It was a bad guy haven where they were doing what they would with God's people. There was no good spiritual fruit being produced there. It was a wilderness. Nothing was growing. 43, whenever we get to the back half, behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. The beast of this field shall honor me, the dragons, because I give waters in the wilderness, rivers in the desert, to give drink to my people, my chosen. They might understand it back then as physical. I'm pretty sure they did. Hey, water, yay, life, salvation, yay. But Christ clearly is explaining it there at Jacob's well. No. I'm going to give you a much better water. You're never going to thirst spiritually. You're never going to thirst if you drink the Word of God. I am the water of life here. That's what it's talking about. Now will I rise, said the Lord. Now will I be exalted. I think he's coming in as this locust army here that we're going to see. He comes as this locust Gentile army. He's showing the world that his faithful would survive, that the enemies of his people, he's showing the world who the good guys are, who really had the real God, or I guess in an ancient pagan way, and you two guys can back me up here, if you won the battle, your God was more powerful than the other God. Well, the Christian God, according to what a pagan might see, was getting his hat handed to it. They were left for dead. There's no way they could overcome what was going on. They had no army. They had very little resources. They had small numbers, and they had multiple forces, multiple different forces coming at them. Nero dies, the Jews are wiped out, and boom, Christianity. And the pagan world would recognize that. He's being exalted. This is how he's being exalted. This is how it's spread. This is how Christianity spread. Ye shall conceive chaff. Ye shall bring forth stubble. Your breath as a fire shall devour you. The people will be burned like cut thorns which are burned in the fire. Go back to earlier in Isaiah. Therefore, and we're talking about the Jews here, Judah and Jerusalem. It's very clear who this is. Therefore, as the fire devoureth the stubble and the flame consumeth the chaff, so their root shall be rottenness, and their blossom shall go up as dust. Because they have cast away the law of the Lord of hosts. Who's the only ones capable of doing that? The Jews. They're going to be the chaff and the stubble. They're going to be the target. It's the wicked Jews. I don't think it's Sennacherib. Because Sennacherib is eventually killed by his sons, but his little generation, they go on for another 100 years after that. Revelation 17:16. And 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, which class 3 I identify as Jerusalem, the one who's the worst harlot of the two, and shall make her desolate and naked. Desolate. Here comes the desolate part again. The barren wilderness. and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. I think these are all saying the same thing. I think y'all are probably getting to where you can see it too. I won't go over that again, y'all know that. And then you have this beast that comes in, this sea beast, this Roman beast is what I currently think it is, comes in and destroys the harlot. Leaves her desolate, comes to the whole world. Rome is the whole world. They come in to battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat. They come in to battle the wicked Jews there. God's people were going to win, though. You who are far away, hear what I have done, and you who are near, acknowledge my might. And I've gone back to this verse like every, third class or so. Remember class 1? I said, I think this is what the book of Isaiah is about. I think this is what the book of Revelation is about. The Gentiles shall see thy righteousness, and all the kings thy glory, and thou shalt be called by a new name. When is he going to be exalted? When is the whole world going to see that he's being exalted? When they're going to get the name Christian. I think it's first century. I think all of this is just pointing to first century. I don't want to go through this because I'm short on time. Ephesians chapter 2, which we've done before. Chapter 2, 11 on is fantastic for what we're talking about. That is the book of Isaiah. Ye who are near, ye Jews, and then ye who are far, ye Gentiles. Well, through Christ, there's no more strangers. You're all made one through Christ. Verse 14, thus sinners in Zion. They're going to be afraid. They're the ones that are getting this destruction, this burning, this, you're going to be as the chaff. This everlasting fire, this devouring fire is coming after you. Who, ye sinners in Zion, who of you are going to survive this? I don't think we're talking about Assyria here. I think we're talking about the Jews, the sinners in Zion. They're going to be afraid. Ye hypocrites, fearfulness has surprised the hypocrites. And what do we read in Matthew 23? If you learn one thing about Matthew 23, it's that it says, "Oh, ye scribes and hypocrites," over and over again, like every other verse. You scribe, woe to you scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites. Woe to you scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites. Woe to you scribes. It says it like 8, 9 times. I don't know. I didn't count. It's in there a lot. So when I read this, I'm like, hey, the sinners in Zion, the hypocrites, my mind just goes straight to Matthew chapter 23. And we've gone through Hebrews 12 multiple times explaining, hey, you Old Testament Hall of Fame, you didn't get to come to the promise of the church. But you guys who are alive there when Hebrews was being written, you have come to the promise of the church of the firstborn. And I had to shake the heavens and earth. And when I mean shake, I mean I had to remove them. I had to remove Judaism, the heavens and earth, so that that which cannot be moved could take its place. The Church of Christ, the Christian age church. But I always skip the very last verse of that chapter. For our God is a consuming fire. That verse, that end of chapter 12, Hebrews chapter 12, is the exact same thing as what's going on here. Hey, you sinners of Zion, you Judaism, hear ye people of Sodom, and ye rulers of Sodom, and ye people of Gomorrah. Your cities, your desolate cities are going to be burned up as the chaff. I think it's all connected. Who's going to survive it? The one who's being righteous, the one who's walking in the light, the one who is taking refuge in Christ in this impregnable rock. He will dwell on the heights. His refuge will be the impregnable rock. His bread will be given him. His water will be sure. The bread of life, the Word of God, the water of life. Jesus Christ himself. I am the water of life. And Jesus said unto them, I am the bread of life. The one who's going to get saved is the one that's going to rely on that bread. The one that is going to be relying on Christ. He's going to get that bread. I am the bread of life. He that cometh unto me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. I am the bread of life. I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If any man eat of this bread, he shall live forever. And the bread that I will give is my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world. A couple chapters earlier, but whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. I think this is talking about the gospel. So who's gonna survive this destruction here? Think about this for a second. You've got this judgment, you got this thing coming where the sinners in Zion are going to be destroyed and they're going to be burned to the chaff, like the chaff. But who's going to survive it? Who can stand up to this? The ones that have turned to Christ. Meaning, what am I meaning by this? What is my big point here? Could that have happened in the 8th century BC? No, that can't have happened. Christ is not here yet. I think it's a messianic prophecy. I think this is one of the big verses. There's more big verses, but I think this is one of them. Your eyes will see the King in his beauty. They will see a distant land. What was it? Gill's exposition, whoever I had up there earlier, Elcott, I don't remember who I had. Was like, hey, some people think this is talking about Hezekiah. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Because in a few more verses you have, the Lord is thy king. The Lord is going to save you. Hezekiah clearly does not save them. He has to turn to God in a very, very hard way. Please save us. Please save us. There's nothing I can do. We're taught that in detail. Hezekiah cannot save them. It's God here. You have this distant land, you have this faraway country, for the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country. What I want to stress here and point out is that the kingdom of heaven is the church. Okay? In the church of Christ, in congregations of the church of Christ, half the people will agree with me, half the people will say the kingdom of heaven is actually heaven. I do not believe that. I believe that the kingdom of heaven is the church. I think it's the New Jerusalem. The city not made with hands. Here's the best verse to say it. My kingdom is not of this world. It's not going to be a literal, physical kingdom. It's going to be this spiritual, metaphorical, or symbolic kingdom. And you have all of these parables here. And he's sitting there saying in Matthew 3, repent, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. It's time. It's here. Well, the end of time in heaven is not here yet, but the church age was. And he goes on to ask him, he's like, hey, how come you're speaking in parables? And the disciples, they would get it. They could understand all of this talk, but the Jews that weren't going to turn would not get it. They would not understand what Christ was saying here. And so he starts going through all of the different parables describing the Christian age church. These are all talking about the church, the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed. The kingdom of heaven is like leavened bread or unleavened bread or whatever. The treasure, the goodly pearls, the pearl of great price, all of these things. When you read those, they're talking about the church, the kingdom. Your heart will meditate on terror. Where is the one who counts? Where Where are your leaders, you Jews? Where are your wise people? Where are you bad guys? Where are your leaders? These sinners of Zion, they're not going to be able to be saved. They're not going to be able to save themselves. They're not going to be able to overcome this. You will no longer see a fierce people, a people of unintelligible speech, which no one comprehends, of a stammering tongue, which no one understands. These are the good guys here. And I have these asterisks here because to me this is one of the strongest verses to say that this is a first century event. God promised the unfaithful Jews that they would be destroyed by a fierce nation whose language they couldn't understand. Deuteronomy 28, for the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from afar, from the ends of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. That just screams Roman to me. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. And you need to understand that this judgment cannot be on the Assyrians, because here's your area of the Semitic languages. This is Akkadian. This is what the Assyrians spoke. Here's the Babylonians. Well, they spoke the same language. Babylon destroys the Assyrians. It doesn't fit. It can't be that. However, yet again, we are told that the Jews would not be able to understand the language of the people that are coming in and destroying them. Here, it matches this verse. Because while Akkadian, coming in to destroy Judah and Jerusalem, kind of, not really, they're like cousins. Hebrew, there's these Semitic languages, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but it makes me think of like Spanish and Portuguese. Kind of the same root there. And they can, I'll tell you a quick story. I went to the World Cup in 2014 with a bunch of my South American friends from Texas. They all live here. They all wanted to go down. Chileans, Argentinians, a bunch of Spanish-speaking ones. We stayed with my Brazilian friend. Brazilians speak Portuguese. I bought my friend a $14 Texas flag as, hey, thanks for letting us stay on your $1 million apartment on the beach. He was a doctor. So I gave him a $14 flag. For a month. It was crazy, awesome. I don't even like soccer, but it was still fun. He says, oh, I got you a gift too, because this is a foreign exchange student friend, and we were in high school together, played basketball, ping pong every single day he was here. Very, very close to the guy, I love him to death. He said, I got you a gift too. He pulls out a red and black shirt, red and black striped shirt. Everybody in the room switched to Spanish. And they were going 1,000,000 miles an hour. And they were talking with the Brazilian because it was close enough in the languages. They could have a conversation. They were going back and forth, I could tell. Well, like 2 minutes later, my friend comes back and he goes, he comes back to English, my Argentinian friend. He's like, do you know what this is? Do you know what this is? I was like, a jersey? And he goes, this is not just a jersey, because we were staying right there in LeBlanc Beach, which is right next to Club Flamingo. Nobody knows what I'm talking about here, but stay with me. He goes, your friend is one of Ronaldinho's doctors. Ronaldinho gave your friend this jersey, and your friend is now giving it to you. And I'm like, that's super cool. Who's Ronaldinho? I had no. Apparently, he's like one of the best 3 soccer players to ever live. It's like Pele, Maradona, Ronaldinho. Y'all know Pele.
Yes.
Okay, that's about where I ended. But
from South America.
I'm not going to get into soccer.
The Ronaldo and the Messi's people would disagree with you.
Yeah, and maybe of a different era.
Sure.
You know, you're talking like 90s type stuff, I think.
Yeah.
So anyway, they could understand each other. Not the same language, not every word was the same, they would have trouble, but that's the way I think of Hebrew, Akkadian, these Semitic languages. They've got the same root of their language, Abraham.
It's just like French, Spanish, and Italian. They're all Romance languages, and they all if you speak one, you can kind of understand the other one.
Yes. However, if you're speaking this backwards, all the Aramaic, all of that, that's all Semitic language. If you're speaking this backwards writing from right to left writing, and then all of a sudden, these dudes come in and they're speaking Latin, nobody understands them. Nobody understands them. God's faithful would be able to overcome that. They would be able to overcome Nero's persecution there, the Roman army destroying Jerusalem there in 70 AD. I don't think it fits Assyria because Assyria understood the language of the people destroying them. Okay? Everybody with me on that?
Was Jesus ever criticized for never in his day speaking Latin?
I have no knowledge of it.
I don't either.
Greek would have been the legal.
Greek?
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the common people spoke Greek. Like even in Rome, I think a lot of common people spoke Greek. I think it was your officers, your army, your politicians, and later on the Catholic Church, but that's centuries later. They all spoke Latin.
How we view Latin now is this kind of mysterious, smart people language. That
I
was
think of a doctor.
that was
Yeah.
Greek for
Yeah.
them. That was Greek for them. So they,
You know
if
Latin,
you
you're a
were
doctor.
if you were educated and all that, you spoke Greek. You wrote Greek.
Greek, that
And it's-
Koine Greek was
Koine Greek.
very widely spoken all over the place.
And that's what Paul wrote his letters in. Luke was written in Greek.
Right.
Yes. They would be able to understand that. They could not understand Latin.
Well, and when Jesus was crucified, it was written, the charge, the King of the Jews, was written in multiple languages
For everybody.
for everybody.
Right.
So, yeah, so,
Including Latin.
including Latin.
Yeah, because eventually, I mean, right then, you already had Romans
Yeah.
very quickly start coming over. Daniel 8:23, and in the latter time of these Greek kings, the Didache, the four that broke off after Alexander dies, when the transgressors are come to a full, when the sinners of Zion are full, when they are at their height, a king of fierce countenance that Moses warned them about was going to come and destroy them. He's going to come and bring on the worst time ever for the Jews, which Matthew chapter 24 references. Hey, and this is the worst time ever that Daniel the prophet spoke of. It's now happening here while this temple is being torn down and not one stone left upon another. Look at Zion, the city of our appointed feast. Your eyes will see Jerusalem, an undisturbed settlement, a tent which will not be folded. Its stakes will never be pulled up, nor any of its ropes be torn. When are we talking about? I think this is the church. I think this is the new Jerusalem. The spiritual version of the kingdom. Not the old physical, literal Old Testament version of the kingdom. Because that doesn't work for Old Testament Jerusalem. It gets yanked up a whole bunch of different times. And that Levitical priesthood sacrificial religion is gone. It's not there. The Jews today are a Talmud type religion. They don't have temple focused worship. We're almost done. Give me another second here. This city that would not have its stakes, that's what the promise was. Isaiah is promising it. The Hebrew writer is saying, you've come to it. You have come to the Mount Zion. What Isaiah 33:20 was talking about. You have come to the city of the living God. This new Jerusalem, the church of the firstborn, the bride, the kingdom. Revelation 3:12, he that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out. I will write upon him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven. It's not heaven, it's coming down out of heaven. It's the spiritual kingdom that God delivers to the earth as he's removing this old physical Judaism kingdom. I will write, and when? And I will write upon him my new name, Christian. The Lord is our King. Verse 24, kind of at the end here, real quick. And the inhabitants shall not say, I am sick. The people that dwell therein shall be forgiven their iniquity. You've got this sickness, this iniquity being kind of coupled into one. Well, you also have it in Matthew. And when the Pharisees saw it, they said to the disciples, why eateth your master with publicans and sinners? But when Jesus heard that, he said unto them, that they that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. Meaning, I'm here to heal the sinners. The ones that are already well, they don't need a doctor. That's what he's there equating that sin with sickness there. And then you have these two verses real quick. I think this is our last slide here. You have these predators are not going to be able to have any sort of success in these rivers of life. And when you think about Old Jerusalem, here's a point that some of the people make. There's no big river for Jerusalem. That was watered with springs. So there's no river here. But in the New Jerusalem, you're going to have these rivers of life. And the bad guys are not going to have success. His enemies, including first century Judaism, would not have any success in those rivers of life. Okay? So you kind of can see why I think everything is still pointing toward the first century. I hope that going through this, you can, even if I'm wrong, you can say, okay, well, he's got plenty of supporting evidence to kind of make him lean that way. And I think it's kind of easy once you really start breaking this apart and connecting it to the New Testament.